The thinnest Samsung phone ever made, the S25 Edge. The name threw me off a bit, since Samsung used to call a curved screen phone they made 9 years ago the Galaxy S7 Edge. But since I guess lexicon is finite, we gotta reuse some words, and recycling is always a good thing. I watched a few S25 Edge reviews before this lucky device got delivered to my desk, and everyone online basically said you have to touch it to believe it. But to be honest, now that it's been touched, I'm just not all that impressed. I mean, I have some questions, like are there balls inside, and what the cooling system's like, and more importantly, is it going to turn into a Flip 6 if I put it in my back pocket? It's instantly apparent that the Edge does not have the same anti-glare coatings that the Ultra series has. The Ultra lets you count the individual diodes in my LED lights, and not having that glare reduction is a downside. But for the most part, if someone handed me this Edge out of the blue, I would not think twice about its thinness. Intentionally analyzing it though, I can tell that the 5.8mm titanium Edge looks good. But I mean, and I hate to do this, Apple did it first, and did it better. The M4 iPad that came out a year ago is 5.1mm thick. Well, I mean it used to be 5.1 before it went through some things, but there ain't nothing wrong with being a little thicker than you used to be. Comparing the S25 Edge with some everyday objects, I have it clocked in at a tad over 3/4. Sliding 2 house keys up to the frame, they very closely line up with the actual silhouette. Or, the S25 Edge is the same thickness as 7 razor blades. And if you're the studious type, it's not quite as thick as a pencil. But sometimes, at least here in the USA, you gotta measure things in ice cream lids. And this S25 Edge comes in at 1/3 of an ice cream cap, not including any of the spilt ice cream on the screen. I kind of regret this decision, but at the same time, cameras can sometimes play tricks on your eyes. And it's good to get some physical real-world examples of what the S25 Edge compares to. Fun fact, if your finger was blown up to the size of the Earth, and then you touch the Earth with that large finger, you'd be able to differentiate the difference between houses and cars. That's how good our sense of touch actually is. So believe me when I say, now that I've looked and touched, it's just not as special as it's been cracked up to be. Not special enough to justify the price anyway. And speaking of price, and wallets, huge thanks to Ridge Wallet for sponsoring this video. Ridge has a Father's Day sale right now with up to 40% off. And since I've been carrying a titanium Ridge wallet in my pocket for 6 years now, I can personally attest to its durability. If you can survive 6 years with me, you can survive basically anything. The sale includes Ridge's new 10,000 mAh magnetic wireless charging dual-corded power bank that can charge a phone up to 3 times, and has a built-in kickstand. The S25 Edge obviously doesn't have a ring of magnets to lock the wireless charger into place, but if you use a magnet case, like the grip case from D-Brand that I have on my S24 Ultra, Ridge's magnetic power bank will clamp on just as good to an Android as it would any iPhone. And even though I've had my wallet for half a decade, it might be time to swap it out, since this new Kintsugi Gold is calling my name. Kintsugi is a Japanese art form where they fix something like pottery or ceramics with real gold acting as the glue, making a broken object beautiful again, which is poetic. Dads deserve a gift that lasts, so if you use my code JerryRig, you can save up to 40% off on a gift he'll use for a long time. And if your dad's been at the gas station for a while, just treat yourself instead. The code works for anyone. ridge.com/JerryRig. Where was I? Yeah. One good thing about having a really thin, lightweight device is that if it ever does get dropped, it will probably be less likely to break, since there is less mass and kinetic energy to the phone in general. At least, that's what I think on paper. The Edge is a whole 2 ounces lighter than the Ultra. There is, however, quite a lot of wobble thanks to the protruding camera lenses. The S25 Edge does use a new Gorilla Glass called Ceramic 2 from Corning, which, as we can expect, still scratches at level 6 with deeper grooves at a level 7. The front-facing camera is a 12-megapixel hole punch sitting right below a super thin earpiece slit, and of course the sides are made with titanium. And honestly, since titanium is almost twice as rigid as aluminum, this could very well be what keeps this ultra-slim S25 Edge in one piece. But we'll find out here in a second. The buttons do come out of the frame pretty easily, so make sure no one walks away with these. Samsung is the only manufacturer that does this quirky thing. The top of the phone has some noise-canceling microphone holes, along with a 5G antenna on the left side. and a whole lot more titanium. The bottom of the S25 Edge has a single SIM card tray, 25-watt USB-C port, and a very thin lower stereo speaker slit. I don't immediately see any waterproofing mesh inside of it though, so I'm curious how the IP68 water resistance rating is accomplished. Hopefully we'll see the insides here in a few seconds. The single SIM card tray does have a rubber ring around the lip, and I imagine that Samsung is again just using the same titanium exoskeleton design that they've used on the S24 and S25 Ultras. But we'll know for sure once we snap it in half or tear it down, whichever comes first. I do think it's kind of funny that we talk about how thin the phone is while ignoring the elephant in the room, and by elephant I mean camera bump. Unlike Red Magic phones, which have completely flush back panels, Samsung has a camera hump for its camera bumps. Double-stacked camera plateaus. Dinner plates on top of a serving tray. The top one is a 12-megapixel ultra-wide camera, while the bottom is a 200-megapixel main camera. And a single-tone LED flash, which is also covered up with glass. None of the lenses appear to come off though, so that's nice. But yeah, just another reason to get a case, even if only to even out the camera humps. One thing that definitely helps make the phone so thin is having an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. These sensors under the screen are just naturally flat and fit flush, without taking up any additional depth like an optical fingerprint sensor would. And luckily, even if your phone accidentally got kicked and slid face down across a parking lot, getting scratched up by all kinds of level 7 grits of asphalt, it would still be able to scan your fingerprint just fine. Thumbs up for that. And like, don't get me wrong, this is a very cool phone with basically the same screen specs and resolution and refresh rate as the Ultra. But since you're missing the larger battery, S Pen, and extra cameras, it makes me personally think that I'd rather keep those extra 2 ounces of weight and use them for something useful. But everyone is different, and that's just like, my own opinion. Even after 30 seconds, there doesn't appear to be any permanent damage from my lighter. I am, however, worried about damage from lack of structural integrity. My understanding of this physical world we live in makes me think that this should be a very easy snap, with some glorious carnage and sparks and battery juice seeping out of the cracks of our newly obliterated S25 Edge. But when bent from the back, we get a minor flex and that's about it. When the pressure is applied to the screen, however, I can start to see the back panel separate slightly right above the power button, near where the camera lens tray meets the back glass, which obviously compromises our water resistance, but surprisingly, still no structural damage. The only thing broke here is my brain and my ego. The Galaxy S25 Edge, as thin as it is, survives the bin test with flying colors, and I'm legitimately excited to see what black magic Samsung added to the inside to make this thing unbreakable. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. I gave it a few extra bins vertically because I really don't like being thwarted. And now that I have officially let my intrusive thoughts play themselves out, I know for a fact that the S25 Edge will not bend or break under even very extreme circumstances. If you like slim and sleek, the Edge is a great choice. Just make sure to put what's left of your money into a Ridge wallet, since they're up to 40% off right now. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you around.